It's been a pretty big month in the world of watches. I mean, we've had new AP models, we've had a new movement from AP, we've had new Citizen models, a new Omega model, we've had a new Hublot model. There's so much to get our teeth into, so let's start this month's version of the Watch Report. Okay, so let's start with AP. As most of you know, it is AP's 150th anniversary this year, so we kind of expected a big year from them. And this month, in February, they released a ton of new watches. But let's hone in on 3 of them specifically. So this is the new AP Royal Oak Offshore Self-Winding Chrono in 42mm. It is a pretty big watch, it is a pretty chunky watch, and it comes all in black ceramic. And this year was actually the first time that AP has paired the black ceramic bracelet with this modern version of the Royal Oak Offshore. This watch comes in at 42mm in diameter, 15.3mm in thickness, and yes, before you say anything, I'm aware that it's a thick boy, but then you do have so much movement crammed into this watch. It comes in full black ceramic, is water resistant to 100 meters, and has the in-house caliber 4404, which is visible through the open caseback, and this movement is a powerhouse. This movement has a flyback chronograph, hours, minutes, small seconds, and also a date. It has 40 joules, it's fully self-winding, and it has 70 hours of power. I do think it's quite interesting to see the world of black ceramic kind of coming back into play, because it kind of faded off. 20 years ago it was a huge thing, and then it kind of faded off, but now it seems to be coming back with a vengeance. I mean, even looking at Blancpain, we saw a full black ceramic Blancpain flyback with a blue dial. So it's interesting to see the luxury market going back into that black ceramic space. But what really got me, what really capped my interests as a watch nerd, as a watch enthusiast, is the brand new generation of AP Royal Oak Perpetual Calendar with the new caliber 7138. Now, there are 2 variants of this watch to go for. There's a beautiful blue dial. They just execute their blue dial so well. But then there's also a sand gold. It's almost like a really, really pale looking gold. And honestly, I'm not really sure how I feel about it, if I'm totally honest. Let me know in the comments how you feel about that gold. But it seems almost a little bit too pale for me. The new caliber 7138 found in this new generation of Royal Oak is actually a combination of the caliber 7121 as a base with a new module on top that's been developed thanks to the knowledge acquired with the module on the top of the caliber 5133. This new movement is a perpetual calendar with a week indication, day, date, astronomical moon, month, leap year, hours, and also minutes. This is why I love watchmaking. To cram, that's wild. This has 41 joules and a power reserve of 55 hours. Now, this new watch comes in at 41mm, and between the black ceramic and this, I think that's what stole the show for me in terms of the new releases that AP launched. The next new release that kind of caught my eye is actually from Richard Mille. It's this. This is the new RM74-02. And before we even talk about Richard Mille in general, this watch costs over £500,000. You just can't write it. This watch comes in a patented material from Richard Mille, which they've called TPT, but it essentially means that it's quartz and gold infused. And what they do is they stack tons of layers of quartz on top of each other, really thin layers, and then heat it up to 120 degrees at a 6-bar pressure. And that kind of infuses it in some way and makes this beautiful material. And I do quite like the fact that they've been so innovative here. And the movement in this thing is a tourbillon movement. It's absolutely drop dead gorgeous. The movement in this model is the in-house caliber CRMT5 movement. This has 50 hours of power reserve. It has a PVD coated rose gold flange, which encircles the dial below a curved sapphire crystal. This is all hand finish, and the rose gold bridges keep the movement suspended, with a polished tourbillon bridge holding the flying tourbillon, which genuinely isn't mentioned a single time in their press release, or for that matter, from what I can see on their website. Crazy. The next watch is a little bit less expensive. It's a lot less expensive than the Richard Mille. This is the new Citizen Saiosa 37mm. These new releases come in 3 different colors. You have an ice blue, you then have a bright pink, and then you have more of a darkened green. But to be honest, the green is not really my thing. I think they've maybe gone too vibrant on the green, but again, that's just personal preference. But the ice blue is very cool. These watches come in at 37 millimeters in diameter and 11.5 millimeters in thickness. They have sapphire crystal glass. They have the caliber 8210 movement, which is an automatic movement with 42 hours of power. And to be honest, I think these will do very well. I was a huge fan of the 40 millimeter Seiko, and I can never say the name. I bet you I'm butchering the name again. But yeah, I think these will do very well. Very cool releases, and I like that they're expanding on that range. A little bit earlier in the month, we actually had a brand new release from Omega. It seems like every month, Omega are either releasing a new Speedmaster, a new Seamaster, or a new Aquaterra. It seems like those are the three that Omega are pushing at the moment, and I'm such a fan of it because I am what we call an Omega fanboy. This is the new Seamaster Diver 300 meters in bronze gold. It comes in at 42 millimeters in diameter, 13.8 millimeters in thickness, 49.7 millimeters lug to lug, has domed sapphire crystal glass, and has the Omega caliber 8806 self-winding movement with 55 hours of power. And we can see this movement in the other no-date Seamaster that they brought out, I think late 2024 or maybe early 2025. I think it was late 2024. I actually love the way that the colors play off each other here. I think that burgundy bezel works so well against that bronze gold in terms of just the colors that they've used. It looks really, really vintage, really, really strong. Now, I would pair this with the rubber strap if it was me, because the price on the bracelet is £26,400. So I'd like to save some money there, if I'm totally honest. Something that I really like that they've used here as well is they've actually used an aluminium disc, aluminium bezel. Now, this aluminium bezel, comparatively to the ceramic, has more of a dulled down hue to it. It has less reflection, it catches the light a little bit less, and it's just overall a little bit more rustic. And I really like aluminium bezels. Honestly, my Tudor has the same bezel, not exactly the same bezel, of course, but it has the aluminium disc insert. And I think it just looks wonderfully, especially when you reflect it in the light. When you reflect the glossy ceramic bezels in light, you get big flare from them. But with aluminium, it diffuses it a little bit. And I think that's a nice touch. Now, with the rubber strap, it actually comes in at £13,100. So there's a huge difference in price there. But when you compare it to other gold Omegas with rubber straps in the range, it doesn't seem that bad. I mean, let's just look at this one, for example. We have an Omega Seamaster in Sedina Gold, which I know is patented and I know is a different material and maybe there's more gold in it, but it's £27,700 comparatively to what we just said was 12. That's a huge jump. And for me, it doesn't actually seem as bad when you compare it to that.
I need to interrupt this video really, really quickly because Omega, or Swatch rather, have actually just introduced a brand new model. This is the 1965 Omega Moonswatch, and it looks pretty similar to the Speedmaster white dial. This model comes in at 42 millimeters in diameter. It has a case thickness of 13.25 millimeters, and it has a lug-to-lug of 47.3 millimeters. This watch actually pays homage to the 1965 qualification date, which was March 1st, for the Omega Speedmaster. And if you look really closely, you'll actually notice the 1965 Easter egg in the sub-registers. This watch, in my opinion, is probably one of the sexiest Speedmasters that they've released. And I feel like the only reason I'm saying that is because it has a white dial, if I'm perfectly honest. But yeah, let me know your thoughts. Oh, and also, this watch comes in at £240, which is exactly the same as the previous model. So there's been no price increase just because of a color change. It's literally just a color change.
So the Casio MRG range is a range that not many people understand yet. And I say yet because I think this will be big when it gets more traction, when people start recognizing it a little bit more and when it takes off a little bit more. Now, they actually released what I would call a brand new Casio. And this has a blue dial and it has the model number MRG-B2100R-2A. This watch comes in at 44.4 millimeters in diameter, 13.6 millimeters in thickness, and 49.5 millimeters lug to lug. The majority of the case is made from TI64 titanium with a black DLC coating, although the upper bezel is actually crafted from an alloy known as carborian. And this is 4 times harder than pure titanium, and it has a brilliant glossy kind of luster to it. Now, I actually did a full review of the MRG range, specifically one watch, but I went over why the MRG range is so expensive. I did it from Iceland on a glacier long story, but I'm going to put it up here or maybe in the link in the description for you. There are huge amounts that go into the MRG watches, and I know that everyone compares it with Casio, but when you do the research on the materials they're using, on the processes they're using, you can kind of see why they're so expensive. And I like the fact that they're growing this range, and I also think the blue dial they've used here, they've executed it wonderfully. Now for a really fun one from Bell & Ross. Bell & Ross just released this. This is the brand new BR-03 Astro. And I know what you're thinking. I know you're going to look at this watch and you're going to be like, how the hell do I read the time? And for that, I actually don't know. So this is actually a limited edition piece, limited to 999 units, which kind of makes sense because of how funky and quirky it is. I think this is a true space lover's watch. And if you don't like space, then it definitely isn't the watch for you. In terms of specs, this watch comes in at 41 millimeters in diameter, 11.5 millimeters thick, and it's made from micro-blasted black ceramic. The movement in it, believe it or not, is actually automatic, and it's the caliber BR-CAL.327, which is of course self-winding mechanical movement with 54 hours of power. So from what I gather, the moon is the minute hand, Mars is the hour hand, and the little space shuttle is the second hand. It's actually quite cool. It's quite fun. I mean, I'd probably struggle to read the time on it if I'm perfectly honest, but I quite like things that are a little bit quirky, a little bit weird. This comes in at 4,990 euros, which would be about 4,700 or 600 pounds, I think, but I'll put the conversion up here for you. Next up, we have a Hublot Big Bang. We have a Big Bang from Hublot. Oh, I'm so weird today. It's been a long video. And they're calling this the Unico Magic Ceramic. Now, interestingly enough, this is actually the world's first multicolored ceramic. They figured out a new process to get multicolored ceramic, and they've used it and they're demonstrating it. And to be fair, if executed the right way, I think this could be really cool. I think it's quite a cool piece of innovation. Now, this watch is not for me, if I'm honest. The blue polka dots with the black is not for me, but I like the way they're going. I like that innovation. This is limited edition to 20 pieces and comes in at about £30,000. The next watch is from Grand Seiko, and it's the SLGH027 Evolution 9 High Beat Limited Edition watch. Again, this is limited edition, and again, it executes the dial. Grand Seiko are the king of dials. The king of dials. I've said it before, I'll say it again. It's awesome. But I am starting to think that Grand Seiko are redoing the same dial in a different way. I feel like they need to spruce it up just a touch, spice it up to get those eyes back on them. This model comes in at 40 millimeters in diameter, 47 millimeters in case length, so the lug to lug, and the thickness comes in at 11.7 millimeters. The case comes in ever brilliant stainless steel, which is actually different to normal stainless steel. We've done a full review on a Grand Seiko again in Iceland. I'll put it up here for you if you want to see that, but I go into the details of why that is. It has the caliber NSA5 movement, which is fully automatic and has 80 hours of power reserve. All round, this is actually a really, really sexy watch. I actually quite like it. I think it's quite simplistic in design, and I like the fact that they've executed the dial, again, as Grand Seiko normally do, wonderfully. And that was your monthly watch report. I hope you guys did enjoy. Make sure you hit that subscribe button or follow our Instagram at Chisholm Hunter Watches, or my Instagram at HB Lifelens, or our podcast, the Into the Mind podcast. And yeah, I can't wait until next month. This month has been huge. Next month will be even bigger.